So today we're going to talk about basic production studio. What you need to do a basic production studio. I mean, I do have a pretty good knowledge in this, so I thought I'd share it with you. And a lot of people ask me these questions. The number one question is, what kind of computers to get a hip hop studio started? What kind of, what kind of softwares? What kind of beat machines? What kind of drum machines? What do we need? I mean, this is the day and age. If you just step into this, you can get around people that use stuff like Akai's, which are MPCs, which you've probably heard of, and you can MIDI those together with a hardware keyboard. What I mean by hardware keyboard is, the keyboard is its own sounds. Okay, it has its own sound banks, its own patterns, its own oscillators, its own, it's got everything in the box, so you can take that thing on the road, and you don't have to hook it up to a laptop. And now I'm going to tell you what a MIDI controller is. This is a MIDI controller. This thing right here, this is an old school one that I bought a while back. No, I didn't buy it because it was yellow. It was just the one that they had. I could care less. But this thing controls software. It has a USB out. Okay, it's powered by the USB, so you don't need to plug in a power cord or anything. I use it a lot on my laptop, and I use it a lot up here in the studio. It's right behind me. It's over here. I know the camera might be a little bit off, and I apologize. But this thing right here has everything you need to control software. So if I open up an insert, let's say I just create a insert, and this is Pro Tools, by the way, and I want to play an instrument. Well, let's just go in and let's open up like TL Metro. I haven't opened this up yet. That thing's ugly. So what we can do here is with this, let me just open up something I know that alright, like this thing. So you can start, you can pretty much just play the organ. Okay? Now this thing was still loading, that's what I'm saying. This computer's a big computer. Now when you start running a lot of these VST plugins, these are virtual stereo tracks, which is a virtual instrument. You can use this MIDI controller for as many virtual instruments as you can get and as you can buy. So that's pretty much what a controller does. Now here's the cool thing. If you do have the hardware keyboard, a lot of them have MIDI in and MIDI out. So in order to utilize this, in every studio you need an audio interface, which this is an audio interface, and I'll tell you what else I'm doing with this interface. This is not my primary interface. But what I'm doing is, if I didn't have this MIDI controller, I could hook it up MIDI in and out of this. And now you got MIDI in and out running from your keyboard, so you could use that keyboard, which was a hardware keyboard, which had its own sounds. You could turn down the volume on that, which some dude was being a punk about that. I'm saying turn down the volume on the hardware keyboard, or turn the local, which means local sounds, turn them off, and then you can run, VST instruments. So you could use that as both. So don't think, oh, I bought this keyboard, I don't need it. Same with an MPC. You could use an MPC. Now they got these MPD pads and all that stuff. You could go get an older MPC, Akai 1000, have the luxury of having the sounds in the box, and then have the sounds MIDI out, and you can control software. The only good thing about having a MIDI controller, a lot of times they're already mapped. And what I mean by mapped is the MIDI notes and everything correspond for that certain program. So the Axiom that I just showed you in the box has a bunch of presets for each individual software. Now the newer USB MIDI controllers actually, they can actually detect this stuff, and it makes your workflow a lot easier. You don't have a lot of troubleshooting. You're just up and you're going. So that is the MIDI controllers that you see, and you're wondering what they are. They control software. Now what kind of software are we talking about? This, I'll close down Pro Tools here. This is Pro Tools 9. Pro Tools 9 is a great recording software for vocals. It's a great editing software for mixing and editing, which a lot of you guys out there aren't doing yet. But if you get to that point, this is the kind of software you want. Now, with that being said, here is a VST program. This is called the Native Instruments Machine. This is a very hot item as of today in this day and age of markets for beat production. But this is its own hardware, and it's also its own software. So hardware and software, you open up the machine. It's going to check all, the plugins that I have. It's going to check everything. It's going to initialize the machine, and I'll show you what it looks like. It looks like a flipping Christmas tree over here. Let's zoom in. So down there's the machine. Now let me move my chair over here. So now this thing is a beat production station. If you're going to spend money on something, I would recommend it. Sorry for the hillbilly outlook here, but I wasn't here to impress anybody. But now, this has all the features. This thing is like, it's a little more, a little bit learning curve. You got to understand beats, and you got to understand things, but this is a great way to really get into the professional side of beat production. Other programs that are a little bit different than this kind of stuff. This is a hardware and a software. It's actually a controller that just works with this software. Okay, you can actually use it as a MIDI controller as well, but I don't know how much I would utilize that, but hey, somebody might. But we're talking about software. We're talking about MIDI controllers. If you have a MIDI controller, that MIDI controller is only as good as the software you're running it with. So a lot of people talk about Fruity Loops. Fruity Loops is a MIDI-based production studio. A lot of people like Fruity Loops because it's simple. You can get something up and going real quick. You can bounce tracks out as WAV files, which WAV files are usually the norm for a mixing engineer like myself, or AIFF files, or FLAC files, or blah 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 files. But MIDI information is a little less straining on the computer. Fruity Loops is a little less straining on the computer. But the one thing about Fruity Loops, unless they've upgraded, I haven't kept up with them, but you can't record vocals in Fruity Loops. It's a production station. So you need another software to export your beat to record vocals. Now, there's another program that just came out, which is like a virtual rack of instruments, like I showed you in Pro Tools that opened up. It's got tons of different instruments, like a drum machine, synthesizer, a thing called the Thor player. You got all kinds of cool stuff, the Rex player, and that's Reason. Reason from Propellerhead is a very cool program. The one thing I didn't like about Reason was I was sort of old school when it came to this. I like just grabbing a beat, playing that beat, and just going for it, But the sounds in Reason, to me, they're endless. You could do anything with Reason. And that was the cool thing I liked. You could use samplers a different way. I never used them. So Reason is an awesome production, all-in-one virtual studio rack, pretty much. It'd be like buying 20, 30 grand worth of stuff, and it's just all on one computer screen. Now, Reason came about and understood, you know what, we should give them a way to record their vocals with that production, and they came out with a thing called Reason Record, which gives you a lot of cool things. The one thing I didn't like what they said was they were trying to market to people that didn't understand mixing and mastering, and say you could mix a song just like a smooth engineer. First of all, I'm not smooth or smug or whatever they called me. The thing is there's certain people that know how to mix, engineer, and they said that they put an SSL console inside the program, which an SSL console is like a few $100,000. So good luck. But anyways, when you just start making beats, you need a way for audio to get in and out of your computer. Now, when I was telling you about this 002 here, I have it bypassed, which I'm not going to get into that, but I have it bypassed with some very high-end converters. And a lot of people talk about conversion. In order to run a converter with 8 outputs and 8 inputs, you need an optical to run. But we're not going to get into that. Let's just bypass all these converters back here. But that's where my sound quality comes from as a mixing engineer, and we'll get into that if you want to. But the 002, what we need to do with the 002 is this is the way that this transfers information back and forth from the analog to digital and digital to analog stage. I'm not going to get real technical on this, but analog to digital is anything you record in, like a microphone or a keyboard that's a hardware keyboard, or anything, a kick drum, snare drum, a drummer, a guitar player, and you record it into the system. Now that interface, why they call it an interface, is in sense it's taking analog information and converting it to digital So it's your interface of your whole system. So that's where your sound comes in and out of. Now, if you try to record with your computer laptop audio card, you're going to be disappointed because you'll never ever get in the ballpark of making it sound like, 100% of the albums on the radio, because these are in bigger multi-million dollars, sometimes multi-thousands of dollar studios like myself. So you have this, the interface, the MIDI controllers. You have things like the machine that are their own hardware and controller, and you have things like Ableton that I didn't get into. Ableton's a software that has its controllers they built for it. It's a loop-based software. So Ableton, if you're into the loop-based thing, you're a DJ or something, that might be the way to go. Now, if you're just full-blown, you have turntables, like the one behind me. It's a Denon. I'll show you. Let's see here. Back them up, man. Back them up. But here's a turntable. That is a CD turntable. And what this can do in your production is you can take chops and samples and loops, and you can do things that you normally wouldn't do with Fruity Loops, and you can do it live. So if you like doing things live and beat mapping tracks together, I think Acid Pro would be my choice, because Acid Pro takes and beat maps things and stretches things like no other program. Now Pro Tools came along and sort of just stole all Acid Pro's ideas, and I still like Pro Tools, but that was pretty shady. They might have paid them for it. I don't know how that worked. But with something like this, Acid Pro, a hardware like MPC, you could be up and making beats with samples. Now, a lot of times I utilized a bunch of these programs. Now, most of the time I'm doing mixing, so I'm not doing a lot of production, but I would go into Acid Pro and make a sweet, nice beat mapped loop with something else, and then I would take it in to another software like Reason, and I would start adding strings and have another gentleman come over and play some keyboards. And then I would take it from Reason, and then we might bring it into Pro Tools, and then in Pro Tools we'd start adding like vocal, harmonics and harmonizing, and then we'd put raps down or whatever we had to do, and then we'd be using all these programs. Now, yeah, I did buy Reason, I did buy Acid Pro, I did buy Pro Tools, so everything I'm utilizing I was purchasing, but I stopped buying Acid Pro, I stopped buying Reason, and I'm strictly working with this machine because I think it does almost everything that those did except for the Acid Pro beat mapping. But now I'm going into Pro Tools since they stole that idea, and I'm beat mapping in Pro Tools. Other cool thing about Machine and some of the newer softwares that are coming out is you can actually drag and drop what you just played onto a Pro Tools track, which is nuts to me. You can just go, oh, I like that loop, let's bring it into Pro Tools. Let's put it on a pattern. Now, I've had a few little bugs with it, but I think if they work it out, this is the future of making music. And the one cool thing that I can tell you, since these are MIDI sounds, now follow me and don't get confused, these are MIDI sounds, and they're all triggered from the sounds inside your computer. If you want a guy like myself to mix that, and I have the machine, I can open up your machine session and mix it for you without you using any of your converters. It's just stock sound. Here it is. Let me open it up with these high-end converters, high-end clock, send the beat back, do the volume adjustments, EQs, because now Native Instruments Machine also has VST plugins. I've never mixed anything in Machine, but I can bring all your sounds and bounce them out one at a time, sequenced. If you have a machine session sequenced, send me your machine sessions. I mean, I couldn't stress that enough. We can mix them, and you can put them up on your site for sale. You can get them to publishing companies. Publishing companies want professional done stuff. They want professionalism. So, yeah, as far as sound quality, I can't go into that right now. That's a long journey as far as if I wanted to teach you everything that I've possibly been taught or brought in or learned myself or just focused on. It'd probably take like a year just to really get everything out to you. But that is the basics. USB MIDI controllers, things like that work hardware and software together, like the Native Instruments machine. They also have like the Core Player, Contact, stuff like that, that is more for keyboard players, but you can utilize it inside the machine software. You have things like Reason Record, Ableton Live. The light editions are a little bit cheaper. They have all the MPC stock sounds. You can do some cool things in Ableton. You have certain programs like Fruity Loops and Cool Edit Pro and stuff like that. You have the Adobe version that was sort of like Cool Edit Pro, then Adobe bought it, which is more the the vocal recordings and stuff like that. You can also do your VST instruments in there. Reaper is a one that's very budget friendly. A thing called Mixcraft you can use. So there's so many softwares out there, but you really have to focus on which one is going to help you. If you're a DJ, there's things like Serato, Ots DJ, Virtual DJ, PC DJ. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on, but just try to localize what you're trying to do, and over time you'll realize that you just love having options to be able to utilize all these pieces to make the best product. And I think, to be truthful, for Pro Tools, I will say it's a finishing tool. To me, like all these programs and stuff and software, I know when it gets into Pro Tools, it's time to start mixing. I love having the faders, be able to work with faders, be hands-on. I love being able to use inserts and use external equipment, but this is a whole new session. But that's mixing. Mixing's not recording. Mixing is mixing. Okay, it's taking the individual instruments and actually putting them together and painting a picture. Mastering's different than mixing. Mastering's taking all those to a 2-bus. Now you have 2-track. Now you're working with the overall tone of the whole song, the overall loudness, the overall dynamics, the overall stereo image, and then you're going from there. So I hope I helped you guys out today. I know it was a little bit jumpy, but I'm in this, I don't even know what I'm in. I gotta go watch a girl sing tonight, but you gotta stay active outside of the things as well. I have a person that came over to the studio yesterday that was talking about their album. So if you want to finish an album, and I was just on the phone with my dude that just finished his album. So he got his CDs in the mail and he was flipping out. It's a great feeling to have a CD finished. He had to pay money, but at the end of the day, that reward of having that album, being able to talk to people and have something to sell at your shows, or be a DJ with a mixtape out, I mean, that's what you do this for, so people can hear you. It's not to make millions of dollars, it's so people can hear you. Money comes and goes. I mean, I want to tell people that. Money comes and goes. This stuff costs money, but I'm always going to be looking for that new sound. I'm not like stuck with the Avalon. I'm not stuck with the Manley sound. I love it. I love it. I love the Apogee sound. I might be just like, hey, let's keep it there. But I want to get a Symphony. I want to get some API preamps, some other preamps, some multi-band compressors, maybe a Manley massive passive EQ, some other stuff. But right now, I'm happy with what I have. So hope this helped you guys out. Take care. God bless. You can check me out on DIDUBZ. That's DIDU, B as in boy, Z as in zebra. You can check my albums out. I'll post a little link up there, but those are old school. I haven't made albums for like 10 years. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And the shirt. It's like, where's Waldo? I'll see you. I gotta turn this off because it's a bloggy.